Hey, welcome back to Driver 88. I hope you're all well. Today we're going to be talking about and driving two brand new hybrids from Cupra. If you know me, I'm not the biggest fan of modern hybrids. I've always felt like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul and not being any better off in the end. But with the government's latest exemptions and these two new models, we're going to see whether they're worth buying against the more expensive and high performance cars. So I'm going to review the Formentor to my right and the Leon to my left. They're pretty much dynamically the same, similar cost, different sizes, and they are both hybrid. So we have two Cupras here to review. If you haven't heard of Cupra before, it's probably because it just had yesterday its 5th year anniversary. So it's a very, very young brand under the VAG umbrella. Now, these two cars, obviously being EV, they come with a 5-year warranty and an 8-year battery warranty. Cupra, pretty much the brand itself, was brought into existence to be, I guess, a sporty EV brand. And the brand itself will go fully electric by 2028. Every single model of the Cupra range will be hybrid by 2025. So that's only in less than 2 years. So as I said, these two cars are mechanically the same, but they are quite different than the other Formentors and Leons in the range. They come with a reduced size 1.4 litre, 2 litre turbo. However, they have a 12.8 kilowatt hour lithium battery attached, and their total performance is actually the same as my car, the VZX, in both formats. However, they're both front-wheel drive and they both have a 6-speed DSG instead of a 7-speed like the other cars in the range. What you'll find is that the total 400 Newton meters of torque is quite considerable, but most importantly, the range of these hybrids, the E range, if you're getting around, is 58 kilometers for this one and just over 60 kilometers for the Leon. So I'm kind of wondering in this review, who is the buyer for this sort of car? Potentially someone who's getting this on a novated lease and someone who lives maybe in an area where they're not doing long trips every day. The fuel consumption, I had to rub my eyes because I couldn't believe the figures. The claimed fuel consumption is 1.9 litres for the Formentor and 1.8 litres for the Leon. It seems impossible almost. I'm not sure how many recharges that is involved in that figure, but we'll see. I really struggle to know how we're actually getting that 1.8, 1.9 litre figure. We're going to take these for a drive now and take them on a few different areas. Obviously, I think it would be best to have them for a while to get a proper figure, but I can't see too many people getting 1.8, 1.9 litres per 100 kilometers unless you were just recharging this thing all the time. Speaking of recharging, it's on your left-hand side here. It takes a total of 6 hours to recharge these for a pretty small range. You cannot have a supercharger or a fast charger into these cars. You're probably going to leave them overnight or at your workplace. Other than that, the little 1.4 litre turbo is going to be quite frugal by itself. So once you're out of charge, yes, you will be lugging around a fair bit of weight. And weight, I think, is something that is pretty important with these things because the Cupra over there, the Leon, which is just a hatch, is 1,600 kilos of curb weight without me in it. So when I'm in that car, it's going to be 1,700 kilo hatchback, which is pretty much a large sedan size weight. This guy is 1,700 kilos and has, of course, 1,800 kilos with me in it. So if you have a couple of people in here, 2 tons in the hybrid, as I said, this is where you're sort of getting that robbing Peter to pay Paul situation. Let's have a look at the storage next. So the space of the Formentor, thankfully in this car, we're not losing any space compared to the standard petrol version. What we are losing though is the spare tire. So we've got batteries in the back and then of course your standard petrol engine in the front. So what I've been told is the weight distribution is quite decent. In the petrol version, you can really drop this further down and get more space out of it. We'll put the litres in this up right there. Right now, how much space it's got, I think it's around 400. Space, however, is not impeded. So if you're sitting in the back of the car, you don't have that super high floor like some EVs and some hybrid cars do. You've got the same space as you do in the petrol variants, which is a bit of a bonus. So let's talk about price. Now, these two cars pretty much match the pricing of the top spec VZX models with the fastest engines. And that kind of makes you think, well, how much money can I save over a year or two or three in petrol, given the petrol prices are so damn high in buying this, if I'm not going to save money from the original recommended retail price? Obviously, you'd want to gain that back through the cheapest charging option you can. So like most of these Cupras that are on sale today, we don't have too many options for either in color, because basically for the price these are at, they come pretty much stacked with standard options. The leather seats in both of these are an option. There's also a sunroof. I don't really think you need either, but it's up to your discretion whether you want cloth seats or leather seats. Both of them come on 19-inch rims as standard. You've got 235s all the way around on the Leon and 245s on the Formentor, being the larger car, and it sits about 4 centimeters higher. Looks, I mean, it's up to you. The small SUV, this is the most popular car that Cupra makes, and the small SUV in itself is just enormously popular. So I would say that most people will probably be choosing this, but I would wish to drive both of them to compare for myself. So you'll see the engine bays of these, they're just crammed full of a tiny engine and a tiny battery set up. The combined performance, as I said, 241 horsepower, that's 180 kilowatts in Australian speak. 0 to 100 in the Leon turns up in 6.7 seconds, and I think 7 seconds in the Formentor. Not that you'll be racing too many people off at the lights. I think that the responsiveness is the biggest benefit here. What I would really like, if you're paying $60-something thousand, is to get a proper gas strut to put up your heavy bonnet instead of just a stick. So sitting in the back of the Formentor, we've got a bit more space, of course, than the Leon, but I certainly at 5'11", I didn't find the back of the Leon really cramped or anything like that, and my head did not hit the roof. Panoramic sunroof, I think that's about a $2,000 option. Everything else in here, you've got the petrol blue leather, which is nice, with the copper stitching, Type-C ports in the rear as well, 2 of them with air conditioning. Not a bad place to be. I think that people with kids would not find this to be too small at all. So we have an enormous central infotainment screen. It's actually a little bit larger than the previous 2022 screen in the Leon, same size in this one. You've got your ambient lighting, which for some reason all brands seem to have ambient lighting these days. Your start-stop switch is in the center rather than on the steering wheel, like the VZX. You don't have some of the funky Mark 8 touch buttons, so if you're into physical press buttons, you will enjoy that. Plenty of space for bottles, coffee, and any extras you want to put down. Like all Cupras, you've got wireless charging as well as wireless AirPlay and Android Auto as standard. So I hope you can hear this pretty well because I've got the aircon blasting. It's like 34 degrees. So we'll first try out in E mode. Now, the first thing that I've noticed with both these cars as I got in them is that the E mode range for both cars showed 42 kilometers even though they were fully charged. And that's about 30% off what the claimed range is in the first place, which is quite interesting, but I guess not unexpected. We have 3 different levels of braking regeneration. We've got our E mode, which I'm in now, and our hybrid mode. And then on top of those 2 E modes, you've got your standard Cupra modes in your petrol, just like in your petrol cars. So we do have a Cupra mode, which gives you all the performance and all the sound. I'm really not a fan of the fake Cupra noise, which is pushed into the cabin. Both cars I've noticed, even though the performance is quite decent, they both do feel heavy. And I guess coming out of my car, which is a Leon VZX, which is only I think about 60 kilos lighter than this car, I definitely feel it straight away in the corners. But I do kind of appreciate in a sort of semi, I guess, urban environment like this, a bit of E mode when you want it. It's just a little bit more relaxing to sit in traffic in an EV, just my opinion. So steering feel, it's not really going to matter too much, isn't it? I mean, I'm going to be the sort of customer who wants the most comfortable car, which has all the options I need and has crazy fuel consumption, so I can save money at the Bowser if I'm ever there. Speaking of being at the Bowser, when I got in this car, we've got a total estimated range of total 800 kilometers. So it's quite a lot for a hatchback. I have seen some people on the forums saying that they're getting around potentially 1,000 kilometers per full tank and charge, which is quite considerable. We've been driving around here on and off, and we've been getting sort of low fives, but I'm sure once we get in other areas and we're more consistently traveling somewhere, can drop into the fours and even lower. One thing that I've found, even with some modern hybrids, like a modern hybrid Cayenne that I drove not that long ago, I've found that the transition to the engine turning on is really smooth. So there's no sort of herky-jerkiness when you put your foot down and the petrol engine comes to life. But through the corners here, it does feel like a hefty little thing. I think it's probably not going to come on your radar if you haven't driven anything else, but it does feel rather heavy. You're not going to be attacking apexes in this car. You're going to be doing all the daily duties you can possibly imagine and going about your day. So one thing I would kind of like in this car is having a mode button on the steering wheel. I kind of like that in the other VZX models because you don't always want to be in the most fuel efficient mode, at least I don't. On top of that, in the Formentor, for some reason when I was driving in hybrid mode, I couldn't get back to full EV mode while I was driving. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I can do it in this car. I'm sure it's some small issue that I have not looked at. So Cupra mode off the line. Fairly solid performance. It takes a little bit of time when you've got your foot flat to the floor to get all of that performance at once, but I think it's going to be really ample for most customers who look at this car. So now let's have a drive of the Formentor. So we're in the Formentor VZE now. This car is a little bit easier to get into, and I think that may play into the sort of customer who is looking at these two cars. One thing that's interesting, so I haven't done 1,227 kilometers in this thing, but the dealership who has managed 4.3 liters per 100 kilometers, which is quite impressive, I must say. Let's take this thing for a drive. I still continue to forget to turn these cars off. It shows that I'm too addicted to petrol cars. Let's try maybe one of these sportier settings. So if you put it in hybrid, and we'll choose our Cupra mode under our driving profile. Didn't seem to want it to go into drive. Pretty solid, about 7 seconds 0 to 100. I think it's very possible with this car, and with 400 Newton meters just to the front, you could probably spin the fronts pretty easily as well if you wanted to. Yeah, that might make your daily commute a little bit more exciting. All right, let's get this thing on the freeway and see how quiet she is. I don't know why, but I guess wheels are just getting larger and larger and larger for all these models. 19 inches for both cars, and I'm finding that this thing is soaking up the bumps a little bit better than the Ateca VZX that I drove recently. I've been pretty impressed with the dampening for a daily vehicle that has some pick up and go. So we're in Cupra mode, hybrid mode, onto the freeway. I think you'll have no problems in dropping gears in your 6-speed DSG and overtaking if you wish. If anything, it's that mid-range power band that's really aided by the batteries just as much as the takeoff. I think if you're wanting to go much faster, you may run out of steam quite quickly, but here in Australia, 100 is about all you're going to be going. So on the freeway, as you can hear my voice, it's relatively quiet. There is a bit of road noise, I actually found the Ateca that I drove recently had a little bit less road noise than this. I'm not sure if that's because it has a different type of tyre, but quite comfortable. You've got electric leather seats, and we're finding that as today is well over 30 degrees and we've got the aircon pumping, it certainly is going to have an effect on our battery range. Yeah, nice responsiveness and torque from the little thrumming 1.4 litre turbo engine. All right, now that we've driven both cars, we've had a look around them, we've looked at all the stats and figures. This has been very much a bit of a nerdy vlog because I feel like the people who want to drive this car, the dollars need to make sense, the kilometers and the fuel consumption all need to make sense. The space, all the ergonomics, it needs to be the right car for everyday use. And it's seemingly been ticking a lot of boxes in this Formentor. So we'll be taking the cars back now and giving you a bit of a verdict. And I want to get your opinion as well. Verdict on the VZE, Leon and Formentor. Let me know which one you would choose. I have a feeling that you're probably going to choose the Formentor as it has more space. And I guess it looks a little bit cooler. The verdict on either of these, well, these cars certainly are not for me for my daily choice, but they might be for you if you can get a government FBT exemption and you need as much, I guess, little fuel consumption as possible. On top of that, you're probably going to be a person who lives close to the city and doesn't do really, really long drives every day. So guys, with that, thank you very much for watching. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers now. If you could please subscribe so we can get verified on YouTube, that would be fantastic. And we've got plenty more videos and vlogs and reviews for you to come. Thanks for watching.